Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, Joanna.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
I'm loving that you're here with us. Can you share with the listeners a little bit about who you are and what your story is?
Yeah, I'm an intuitive business mentor. I used to be a chartered accountant, what I call my past life. That was 10 years ago. And now I work with mainly female entrepreneurs, helping them get over themselves, money blocks, limiting beliefs, things like that, to help them grow within themselves, to grow within their business. And it's usually taking people from a hustle mentality that I think I have been very guilty of in the past and bringing them more into a flow mentality where things just happen more easily and with more miracles and enjoyment. And I use the Akashic records a lot in my work. I also have a podcast called The Flow Show, and it brings in all these elements. And also a lot of my work has been sort of accidentally, not on purpose, linked to my spiritual journey, which has taken me on a planetary grid work mission. So I travel a lot around the world, going to sacred sites and helping in my own little way heal the planet and helping with planetary ascension. So that's been a little side gig, and we talk about that quite a lot on the podcast as well.
Fun. And that is where I first caught wind of who you were, was through the podcast and the flow show. Because to me, over here, we talk about manifestation. And in order to manifest things easily and effortlessly, you need to be in flow. So I'm curious for you, how did you transition from being a chartered accountant into being an intuitive business mentor?
Well, I was always looking for something else. I was an accountant plus my 4 year degree for 17 years, which is a long time to be doing something that doesn't feel right. But I didn't know what else I wanted to do. I think I would have been too young to maybe be a coach. I wouldn't have even have heard of it. I didn't know anybody who'd ever had a coaching session. I hadn't even had one myself at that point. It was definitely a brand new concept. But I remember in my maybe late 20s, 5 years at least before I made the jump, writing a list of things. I was like, what do I like? Let me start there. What are things I'm interested in? And I would write lists like that. But I really still didn't have the confidence to make any kind of jump into any of those things. And part of my journey as well is I've always been on a quest for health and weight loss. My weight has yo-yoed up and down, which ironically has been part of my spiritual journey. But when I was finally in my last job as a chartered accountant, I had managed to lose quite a bit of weight. And it was kind of like my wake up call. I was like, I've figured this out. This is amazing. I might have gone down the path of becoming a health coach, but I was delaying it, still confused, still didn't know what I wanted to do. They say you ignore the feather, you maybe ignore the brick. Well, I was ignoring all of those signs. My body was in stress. I was burnt out from my work. I wasn't enjoying it. I wasn't sleeping well, constantly tired. My hair had fallen out. It obviously had these big weight fluctuations. So I just knew within myself I wasn't in the right place. I used to have to take deep breaths just to get into the lift to go up to my office in the morning. So I really was not in the right environment. I was miserable. I hated my boss, all of that kind of normal stuff. But none of that was bad enough. Right? It should have maybe been bad enough, Jen, if you're sort of having panic attacks before you get in the lift in the morning going to work. But that it still wasn't enough. And it took me, I was living in Australia at the time, and I was in a volunteer role as a surf lifesaver. So we're the people, if you've ever watched Bondi Rescue on TV, we're not the ones in the blue, we're the ones you see occasionally in yellow and red, helping out on busy weekends, holidays, that kind of thing. So I was volunteering as that. I was out in a rescue boat one day, really big waves, and we just crashed over the side of a wave, and my lower back took the brunt of it. And while I was actually spinal injury trained specifically to help people with that kind of thing, I was not aware of how bad my injury was in the moment. The adrenaline's going, you don't really realize the extent of what's going on. And it wasn't until the next morning that I physically couldn't get out of bed. And I was like, oh my goodness, I've gone and become a statistic on my own beach. This is really bad. But I hadn't done any major damage, but I did have a lot of rehab and I was not able to work. And it took me many months, maybe even a year to sort of recover from that. But what it gave me, the gift that it gave me was a a pause in my busy hustle life, running from one thing to the next, from the busy 8 till 8 job to the volunteering positions to I used to train for triathlons and do all that kind of stuff. And it gave me this moment of calm. I couldn't do the things that kept me busy and avoidant in my life. I couldn't even do my job properly. So I had time off from work. I couldn't do all the exercise. I couldn't do my volunteering. And so the gift within that was that it opened up this window of time for me to contemplate, what am I actually doing with my life? Where are we going from here? And it was in that window that I discovered a health coaching course, which I started online. It was one of the scariest purchases I've ever made. This was at least 10 years ago, and people didn't make big purchases online. I certainly didn't. So I made the big purchase and embarked on that, and I got so excited. My life suddenly lit up. I'd gone from being stressed and sad and all that kind of thing to this just unbelievable excitement building within me. And it was about 6 months studying that I took the big leap and started my own business and started from there. I could talk for all the time, but yeah, that's where it started.
That is very powerful because you said something in there that was an aha for me that I just want to lean into here for a second. You said in your hustle lifestyle, you were actually avoiding. So isn't that curious about how we can think we're doing all the things and we're just in the motion of doing the things without even allowing
Absolutely.
yourself that pause to realize that maybe I want to be doing something different. Maybe this life, and you also said in there that it was, air quotes here, normal to go to that job that you disliked and grind it out. Whatever it is that we're perceiving in this world, that is just normal to have to grind it out, doing something unfulfilling. I'm not saying everybody's doing that, but a lot of us, that is our normal. And I think those are two really poignant things in there that people can probably relate to. And hopefully by listening to this, hit pause for a second and go, am I in hustle mode because I am actually avoiding what I want to be doing, or avoiding listening to that little compass or that heart inside of you saying, hey, why don't we try to do this other thing over here? That
Absolutely.
is a crazy story that you actually had to physically get hurt and unable to work before you could give yourself that moment to pause. And now you're on this path that brings you so much more joy. So you've gone through this path of going from the hustle mode into the flow. So how are you helping your clients go through that transition?
I would love to tell you, Jen, that I had learned from my experience initially. Now I have, but initially I went into my new business and realized that I didn't know very much. I was underqualified, and I went into absolutely hyper mode of doing 4 year long courses at the same time, learning everything I could from marketing to copywriting, from sales, on top of all my coaching and healing skills, on top of having a spiritual awakening. I didn't have a day off I thought I was going to, when I quit my job, I was like, I'm going to be on the beach all the time. I'm going to be doing this laptop situation, sitting outside, working on my tan. None of that happened. I basically didn't have a day off for at least 2 years, sometimes working 16-hour days. So I hadn't learned anything in that moment about the hustle. So I went straight into my business, working with that same and probably more ferocity than I ever had in my old work. So I really hadn't given myself time to recover from the old job and went straight into working like that. So it took me doing that and then burning out in my own dream business to start to understand the concept of flow and what I had been doing to my body, and realizing that it wasn't sustainable long term. I again had just made myself incredibly busy, but in a different way. I was doing my own thing, which was great. And there were some wonderful highs and exciting times and joyous moments. But there was also, I was still working really, really hard. And so what I've realized so much is that the key to getting into flow really is healing our wounds, our limiting beliefs, whether it's I have to work hard to make money, right? That was obviously deeply ingrained in me as a child. But then I just flipped it from working hard in my corporate job to having to work really, really hard in my own business. So it was starting to uncover these kind of beliefs. And then I find that it was one thing to make money in a corporate job. I had my annual review, I got my annual bonus. I never once had to put a value on my own skills or ask for the money. I was very lucky to just be given a raise or to be given those bonuses. But when I flipped into doing it myself, this work, it wasn't something I had a degree in. I couldn't flash my CA certificate for this. So that was a big transition for me to value this new type of work because it wasn't something that I understood. So to getting my head around my own pricing, my strategy, structuring my business, all of those kind of things were a learning experience. And it brought up so many things. I didn't think I had any problems, honestly, before I started my business. I didn't believe I had a limiting belief. I hadn't got a clue I had anything going on. I really didn't. It was a massive wake up call for me. And it led me down this beautiful journey of healing and self reflection and personal development. Undoing all of those pieces are what's brought me into allowing myself to live in more flow. On top of that, the old hustle mode really comes from a place of I've got to do this. I have to make it happen. If I'm not pushing and pushing and pushing, it's not going to happen. It's not going to work. So it's really a sort of inner self-reliant piece. And for me, flow, well, it's not in any way a religious concept. It does include an element of faith in something higher, something positive that's higher, whether that's the universe, God, Buddha, Allah, whatever somebody wants to name that for themselves. But for me, I now have a faith in something higher that is working in my favor. And flow, in some ways, is a series of synchronistic moments of things that are just so incredible that there's no way you could have planned for them. Who listens to a podcast, who sees a post? I can't control any of that. And so for me, there's this like deeper sense of it's happening for me, not to me now. Really, that is the place where I've landed, and it's really become a key part of my life now. And that's how I live. Once I clicked into that mode, it's taken me on a really beautiful journey. Not all of it has made sense at times, but looking back, I can join the dots, and it starts to make a little bit more sense looking back.
That's great. You didn't know that you had these blocks or limiting beliefs. How does someone start accessing their awareness to those limiting beliefs or blocks that they have? Do you have like exercises or tips that they can try to do themselves to peel back the layers?
Yeah, absolutely. The first layer is awareness, like recognizing that there might be something going on. I remember sitting with my first coach and really like the penny dropping. I think he saw my face being like, and I was like, wait, I'm the problem? It really was like such a moment for me when I realized that I had some control or some things going on that I hadn't dealt with. Really, probably quite comical for him to look at me, but just being like, wait a second. Um, so the awareness that you might have some of these things going on is the number one. Depending on what area of your life it is that you are feeling a little bit stuck or blocked or feeling like you've hit a ceiling in your development, perhaps, that is the place that you obviously want to start looking. What am I thinking? What am I believing here? What do I believe is possible for me? And if you don't believe that success is possible, miracles happen, it's available for you. One of my big beliefs was that it was okay for others, but somehow not for me. And it wasn't a jealousy thing. It wasn't that I would be angry when other people got something. I just believed it wasn't something that was possible or available for me. Like an online business, I didn't even know it existed. I didn't think that was something that I could do. A lot of the people online I thought were more beautiful or more interesting or more whatever. And I could have told myself a million reasons why I shouldn't be doing it. And I had to really look at my own inner thought process around that and be like, why not me? Why can't I do that? And it actually took listening to somebody on an interview who was Scottish as well, explaining her some of her business success. And I realized that I had had this weird belief that it wasn't for Scottish people. I mean, what on earth? Where did that come from? I thought it was just for the cool American girls. So I was like, wow, we can do it too. I can do this too. So it really was like a series of permissions and understanding where I had counted myself out before I'd even started. Another huge hurdle for me was visibility. I've struggled with my weight over the years. I wasn't somebody that I didn't want to be an influencer. I didn't want to put selfies online. I'd never had a photo shoot, all of those kind of things. I'd never been interviewed. I'd never been on video. I still don't like necessarily seeing myself on videos and things like that. But I had to realize that that was my own insecurities and really working on those things and getting over myself to allow myself to put myself out there to, you know, do all those things, have the fun photo shoots and actually get to a place where I could actually enjoy them, even though I've wanted to cancel every single one before it's happened. But so yeah, there's just been layers and layers of things. So the first thing is an awareness. What is going on? What are those things? And then figuring out what you'd like them to be, but also working on why do I believe that? And why is such a brilliant question. But you can often ask yourself, what would happen if I did, right? That's a brilliant question. What would happen if I did this thing? Because often it's just unconscious fears that are not even real fears. So, for instance, for me, let's say putting myself out there on Instagram, what might happen if I did? Right. I don't even know why that's terrifying. I don't know why I'm stopping myself. But if I ask myself, what would happen if I did? And then my brain might say, well, somebody in my family might see it. They might laugh at me. They might judge what I'm doing. Somebody that I went to school with might see it. They might judge me. And then you have to sort of start thinking, where has that come from? What do I need to do about that? Is that true? For me, when I went far enough down that rabbit hole of what might happen, I thought I might die. I know it sounds extreme and a little bit dramatic, but I thought if people laughed at me, didn't like me, didn't want to know me, a very primal thing kicks in, and it's this idea of being excommunicated from the tribe. And if I wasn't included, if I wasn't accepted for what I was doing, or people found out that I was into this kind of stuff, I would get excommunicated from my tribe. And then in olden days, your reptilian brain would then, you would most likely die if you were not part of your tribe or your community. So I didn't realize that posting on Instagram was so terrifying that the ancient reptilian part of me thought I was going to die. Now I know that sounds so dramatic and so ridiculous, but it's very real and not something that you want to just ignore. And but those are the type of things you can start to work through, whether it's with a coach, somebody that can help you uncover and see the stuff. It's called shadow work. And the shadow work is the stuff you can't see. So that first coach who showed me that maybe I was causing some of my own problems that I was so shocked about, I couldn't see that. So that was my shadow that I couldn't see. I just thought everybody else was always the problem, not me. Then you can start to work through. So there's lots of different methods for people to work through. Once you understand some of the things, it might be EFT tapping is something that I love. It's a very easy method to help release trapped emotions and things that come up. Journaling is great. There's lots and lots of different ways, and you just have to find the thing that resonates with you. Maybe it's a methodology, loads of videos online that can help you do that if that's where you want to start. But also just that self-reflection piece can be enough for some people, just being aware that these things are going on, being aware that they have the capacity to change them, and then taking responsibility for some of the stuff, right? Wherever that thing has come from, it's not ever your fault, but once you're aware of it, it becomes your responsibility to heal it and deal with it. The number of times I've had like little mini temper tantrums and being like, why do I have to be the one that release all this stuff? I feel like I've taken on that role within my family to release all the family generational trauma and all this kind of stuff. And the beautiful thing is, though, that whoever it is in the family that is doing some of this work, it actually has a ripple effect through the whole family system, to your children, even if they're already born, to your parents, even if they're already passed. Like, you can have a ripple effect throughout your whole family, and create a beautiful change that way. So it is worthwhile, even though in the moment sometimes it can be a little bit uncomfortable. So there's taking that responsibility piece and then deciding, then the fun bit, right, is rewriting it. What do you want to create from here? What does that look like for you? Who do you want to become? What do you want to have? What do you want to do? Is that beautiful? I think you may even mentioned it. I'm now thinking about the be do have piece, right? So but what do we want to step into? How does my future look? Let me take responsibility. Let me rewrite it and decide what I want it to look like. So there's a few steps. And like I said, the first one is an awareness. Maybe somebody's going, oh, wait a second, I'm the problem. Just like I did all those years ago. It's such a like, whoa, what moment. The key thing is if you either come across something that you don't resonate with, might be a teacher, a healer, a modality, something like that, don't let it put you off completely. I've worked with a few people, I'm like, oh, no, that's not for me. That's okay. But don't let it put you off completely going on the journey. It's just, again, like finding something that resonates with you. It's like not everybody likes the same sports, right? So not everybody is going to resonate with the same healing modality or piece of the puzzle for them. It could be Reiki, it could be acupuncture, it could be dance, it could be meditation, it could be whatever thing that catches your imagination or you think, oh, I've heard of that. Let me have a little look into that. For me, I love the Akashic Records. It's a big part of my work. You've just got to find the thing that resonates and go with it.
And I think the beautiful thing about living in the space that we're living in right now, there is more support and just that allowance of you do you and find what works for you. I feel like even my parents' generation, they grew up put into this box. You go to a doctor, you get the pill. Whereas nowadays, I feel like we have so much more resources at our fingertips, so many more things. And even coming across this podcast where people are sharing things that I didn't even know existed. So if you could share what Akashic Records are for
Oh,
starters, because this might be a whole rabbit hole that somebody does not even know about.
oh my goodness.
Oh my
It's
God.
exciting. It's my favorite thing ever. And I actually went on a course to learn it before I'd even had a reading. I think I'd bought a book, but I'd been too scared to try. So I didn't. I just went and did a course on it. So it came into my life in 2016. I was in LA, I went on this course, and the Akashic Records are a vibrational record of everything that has ever been said, thought, written, or spoken. And it's through all time, space, and dimensions, past, present, and future. I like to think of it in modern terms, used to call it like a giant library. That's how they used to describe it. So a library of all information that's ever been. And they used to say in the past that it was only special people, high monks and priests that could access this special library to gain this information. And now I like to think of it in a more modern way as a celestial iCloud. So it is like this big database of information. But the other new thing is that I believe we all have the ability to access it ourselves. So it's no longer just the tenant of the very special person that has meditated in a cave for 50 years or whatever. Now we all have that capacity ourselves, and you can access it in a few different ways, but mostly for me, it's through a meditation and intention process where I open a vortex, an energy portal, and with intention, with permission of the person that I'm wanting to open the record for, I do that, and then I'm able to experience a vast amount of information about the person. It could also be about a business, a pet, a body of water, a sacred site, and so a country even. Everything is vibrational and it all has a record. Your car even has an Akashic record. And I experience that information. Again, people experience it in different ways. You might have heard of the clairs. So there's claircognizant, clairaudio, clairsentient. Some people hear the information, some people just know the information, some people see visuals, some people hear things. So there's lots of different ways you can experience it, and there's no right or wrong way either. I'm a very visual learner. When I see things, I like, talk to me about something, I might not grasp it, but show me it in a picture. I'm there. I got it. It's similar to that. We all receive the information in different ways. For me, sometimes I'll hear words, sometimes I'll see an image, but for the most part, for me, once I've opened that channel, and I start speaking, just this knowledge comes through, and it's really can be very beautiful and profound. So for somebody in that might be experiencing a personal issue, the beautiful thing about the records is I've done thousands and thousands of readings and worked with so many clients. I think in my ego mind that I know where your problem lies. Like, oh, I've seen this, it's this limiting belief or it's that thing. But what the Akashic records do is they are able to take me, and I set the intention to get to the root of the problem in the quickest, fastest way. And it takes me straight there. So occasionally, whether a recent client was coming to me for something totally unrelated, but I just knew we had to work with her dad. And that was the energy that was coming through. And that one piece of the puzzle that we were able to unravel some of her relationship issues with her father had a big impact on her business and her life and other relationships. But that was the piece that we needed to work on in that moment. It's a new client, just showed up. I didn't know anything about her background. She'd actually been adopted. And so this was actually a really profound thing to work through with her. And that was really important, and it facilitated a beautiful healing. Another time, the place that I knew I needed to start was their relationship with their faith in God. And that unraveled something massive as well. And so I never know what's going to come through the records. And that's part of the beauty of it, is the trust and faith I have in it and allowing it to work through me. I'm just the conduit of this information to help people get a solution quicker to their problems. Sometimes we end up on these beautiful ancestral journeys into, maybe it was your great grandmother or something going on. Sometimes it's past lives. And the portal that we open is very high vibrational energy, and it allows us to speed up healing and jump timelines very quickly, and we have the ability to healing some of the past pieces. And then we also have the ability to see things like relationships from a different perspective, different dynamics within your life or within your business that you might not have been able to see before. We're able to get a really different take on it. And then we can look into the future as well. Now, I never say that we're not fortune tellers, but we are able to predict the future up to about 80% predictability level, because we still have some element of free will, right? A lot of it is predestined and pre-written, but we still have the ability to go right or left in specific moments. I never tell anybody to do something or not do something, but if we are looking at a sort of sliding doors moment, I can say, when I look left, I can see X, Y, and Z. This is the feeling I have. When we look right, it feels clearer, more expansive. We can definitely sort of analyze decisions. Sometimes I've been getting very specific information about where people should travel to or where they should live. And that kind of stuff just blows my mind. So yeah, it's a really beautiful thing to be able to weave it into business, because we can get a really cool, different perspective on things. And I think what people find impactful is obviously the healing element, but also feeling like they're coming into a sense of alignment with their soul, with a deeper purpose. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell. I could go on for hours about it, but I will absolutely not do that because we're already probably over time.
That is amazing. And the big thing that popped up in there, and I'm hearing come up, is trust and faith. And I think listening to podcasts like this, which honestly started off really on the money base and is now starting to play through that world of manifestation, but these things are popping up, these different ways of people to connect with themselves, to find out who they are deeper, where they came from, why they do the things that they do. And trust and faith keep coming up, and it's opening up my eyes, and by default the listeners' ears, to the different possibilities that are out there and are available to us. I have only heard of Akashic Records pop up really recently into my radar. I've probably heard of it, but my brain has never taken it in as a curiosity. And now the more I hear these little sparks, I'm like, I feel like I need to go delve deeper into this, see what this is about. And I think, again, that's coming from my own inner trust and my own beliefs of, hey, I'm ready to hear about this now. Somebody else might be listening right now and go, check out. And that's where they are at in their life. And that is okay. To use that inner compass that you have, to allow yourself to hear your own inner compass, and then to use it to guide you. So this is fascinating. This is stuff that you help people with. I would love for you to share with the listeners where they can reach out and find more about you.
Absolutely. I'm most active on my own podcast, The Flow Show with Joanna Turner. You can find me there, or on Instagram. So you can find me there as well. It's joanna.ya.turner. If you do drop me a message, just let me know that you heard it here, and I'm more than happy to share anything or point you in the right direction for something. I do have a new website coming out, but I teach people how to read their own Akashic records and read it for other people as well. And I do readings as well. So if that's something that is of interest, then definitely reach out. It's something, like you said, almost exactly is, it finds you when you're ready. When you've reached a level of consciousness, there's still some things that come in. I'm like, how have I never heard this before? New modalities or things like that. I'm like, where does this come from? I think I'm pretty much across most things in this world, and there's still things that are popping up. I'm like, wow, that's just amazing. So yeah, it comes when you're ready. And again, it'll resonate or it doesn't, and that's okay.
And that's okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the show today, Joanna.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.